Level 1, the lookout. It starts with a knock you weren't expecting. 3 slow taps and silence. You already know who it is. When you open the door, the man doesn't introduce himself. He doesn't need to. You've seen him leaning against the same black pickup outside the corner store for weeks. Watching. Measuring. You want work? He asks. You nod before you think. That's your first mistake. By nightfall, you're standing on a cracked rooftop with a borrowed radio and a prepaid phone that isn't in your name. The city stretches out in front of you. Low buildings, flickering lights, distant sirens swallowed by heat and distance. Your job is simple. Watch. You memorize license plates. You track unfamiliar movement. You report anything that doesn't belong. A white sedan circles twice. You call it in. 2 men loiter too long outside a pharmacy. You call it in. You don't ask what happens next. They call you a halcon, a hawk. It sounds important until you realize that hawks are disposable. You get paid 2,000 pesos a week, cash, folded into an envelope. No names, no signatures. You tell yourself it's temporary. You tell yourself you're just watching. You start noticing patterns. The same streets go quiet at certain hours. Certain cars never get stopped. Certain names are spoken softly or not at all. You begin to understand the rules, and more importantly, you understand that someone is always watching you too. One night, you hesitate before reporting a patrol car. Just a second too long. The voice on the radio cuts in, sharp. Why didn't you call that sooner? You swallowed. It just paused. A pause. Long enough to feel like judgment. Don't let it happen again. It won't. Because now you know hesitation is visible. And visibility gets people replaced. Level 2. The runner. They move you off the roof without warning. No congratulations. No explanation. Just a new task. Now you're on the ground. You carry things. Small packages at first. Wrapped in duct tape, tucked into gym bags, hidden under loose floorboards in taxis that aren't really taxis. You don't open them. You don't ask. You move them from point A to point B, exactly as instructed. Always different routes. Always different drop-offs. You learn to drive without attracting attention. You obey every traffic law. You become forgettable. That's the goal. You're paid more now, 5,000 pesos a week. Sometimes bonuses if the delivery is urgent. Urgent usually means dangerous. One afternoon, you're told to move 3 kilos across town in under 40 minutes. No explanation, just urgency. Halfway there, you see a checkpoint. Military. Your hands tighten on the wheel. Your phone buzzes. A message. Keep going. You don't have time to think about it. You don't have a choice. You slow down just enough to look calm. Not too slow. A soldier waves you forward. You pass through. No inspection. No questions. You don't breathe until you're 3 blocks away. That's when it hits you. You're not just moving packages. You're moving trust. Someone higher up knew you'd make it through. Or didn't care if you didn't. At night, you can't sleep. Not because of fear. Because of the realization that you didn't hesitate. You follow the message without question. And that scares you more than the checkpoint. Level 3. The soldier. The first time they hand you a weapon, they don't make it ceremonial. No speech, no warning. Just wait. Cold metal pressed into your palm. You'll need it. That's all they say. You're no longer moving things. Now you protect them. Shipments, locations, people. You ride in convoys. 3s, sometimes 4 vehicles. Windows tinted. Radios always active. You learn formations. Who drives the lead? Who follows? Who responds first? You learn the sound of different guns. The difference between warning shots and intent. Violence isn't abstract anymore. It's proximity. You see it up close for the first time on a dirt road outside the city. A rival crew tries to intercept. It's fast. Too fast. Tires screech. Doors slam. Voices shout. Then gunfire. Short bursts. Controlled. You freeze for half a second. Then training, if you can call it that, takes forever. You move, you aim, you fire. You don't remember pulling the trigger. Only the silence afterward. Heavy. Someone is on the ground. You don't check who. You don't need to. Back in the vehicle, no one speaks. Later, one of the soldiers looks at you. You didn't hesitate. You nod. You don't tell him about the half second, because in this world, half seconds don't exist. Only outcomes do. Your pay doubles. Your status rises. People start recognizing you. Not by name, by association. You're no longer invisible, and that means you're no longer safe. Level 4. The operator. You stop taking orders from voices you don't know. Now the instructions come from faces, names, people who look you in the eye when they speak. That's how you know you've moved up. You're entrusted to run small operations, not just protect them, execute them. You coordinate drop-offs, assign lookouts, manage routes. You're given a team, 3, maybe 4 people. They listen when you talk. That's new. You learn quickly that authority isn't about volume. It's about certainty. If you sound unsure, they hesitate. And hesitation spreads. So you stop sounding unsure, even when you are. One night, a shipment goes missing. 10 kilos, gone, no trace. You're responsible. They don't yell, they don't threaten. They ask you one question. What happened? You don't know. That's not an acceptable answer. You spend the next 48 hours tracing every step, every handoff, every call. You find a weak link. A driver, nervous, new. He took a detour, unapproved. That's all it takes. You bring him in. He's shaking. Says it wasn't intentional. Says he panicked. You believe him. That doesn't matter. You make the call. Not because you want to, because you understand what happens if you don't. The system doesn't tolerate uncertainty. And now, you're part of the system. Afterward, your team looks at you differently. Not with fear, with recognition. You did what was required. That's the only metric that counts. Level 5, the insider. You stop being replaceable. That's the difference. Your phone doesn't just receive instructions. It holds conversations. You're brought into rooms you weren't allowed in before. Meetings happen late. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., in safe houses with no windows and too many locks. You sit at the table now, not at the edge. You learn about territories, routes that generate $200,000 a week, crossings that are clean, and ones that are hot. You hear names of officials, police, military, politicians. Some are problems, some are assets. You realize the system isn't just outside the law, it's woven into it. Your responsibilities expand. You oversee multiple teams. You manage money, real money. Stacks of cash that don't fit in duffel bags anymore. You move it through shell businesses. Restaurants that never have customers. Construction companies that never finish projects. You sign off on decisions that affect dozens of people. And you start to feel the weight. Not guilt, not exactly. More like pressure. Every decision has consequences, and those consequences ripple outward. You tell yourself you're just maintaining order, that without structure, everything collapses. It's a convenient thought. You hold on to it because the alternative is harder to live with. Level 6, the authority. People lower their voices when you enter a room. That's how you know. You don't need introductions anymore. Your reputation arrives before you do. You control territory now, not just operations. Streets, neighborhoods, entire free zones, entire zones. You decide who operates where, who pays, who leaves. You resolve conflicts, not with discussion, with outcomes. A dispute between 2 crews land on your desk. Both claim the same route. Both refuse to back down. You listen, you evaluate, then you decide. One keeps the route, the other disappears. Not entirely, just enough to send a message. You understand now that power isn't about control. It's about perception. If people believe you're in control, they act accordingly. And belief is maintained through consistency. You can't afford inconsistency, not once. Your life becomes structured. Routines, security, layers of protection. You don't go anywhere without escorts. You don't use the same route twice. You don't trust easily or at all. Even loyalty has limits. You've seen it break too many times. You start to feel isolated, not physically. There are always people around, but none of them are equals. Not really. They follow. They don't understand. And you can't explain because the higher you go, the less language there is for you to carry. Level 7, the strategist. You stop thinking in days. You think in months, years. Your decisions shape the structure itself. You don't deal with small operations anymore. You design them. You shift routes to avoid pressure. You negotiate alliances, temporary ones, fragile. You know they won't last. That's not the point. point. The point is advantage. You sit across from people who were once enemies. Now they're partners. For now. You talk numbers, territories, percentages. No one raises their voices because at this level, violence is implied, not demonstrated. You manage information that becomes your most valuable asset. Who knows what? Who doesn't? What gets leaked? What stays buried? You understand that controlling the narrative is as important as controlling the product, maybe more. You also understand something else. You're not at the top. Not yet. There's still someone above you. Someone you answer to. Less frequently, but still. And that bothers you. Not because you want more power, because you see the limitations, the inefficiencies. You think you could do it better. That thought doesn't leave. It grows quietly. Level 8, the architect. There's no ceremony when it happens. No announcement, just absence. The person above you is gone. No explanation, no confirmation, just silence. And then everyone starts calling you. You don't correct them. You don't confirm it either. You just answer. That's how power settles. Not declared, assumed. You sit alone more often now, in rooms that are too large, too quiet. You review numbers that don't feel real anymore. Millions moving through systems you designed. Routes that stretch across borders. People you've never met working under your structure. You think about decisions differently. Not in terms of right or wrong, but in terms of stability. What keeps the system intact? What threatens it? You remove threats efficiently, quietly. You don't see the outcomes anymore. You don't need to. The distance is necessary. You tell yourself that. Because if you saw everything, you might hesitate. And hesitation doesn't exist at this level. Your world becomes smaller as your influence expands. Fewer people, fewer conversations, more silence. You trust almost no one because you know exactly how trust breaks. You've seen every version of it. You've enforced the consequences yourself. Sometimes, late at night, you think about the rooftop, the radio, the first call, how simple it was, how clear the rules seemed. Now, the rules are yours. And they're not clear at all. They're shifting, complex, fragile. You realize something then. Power didn't give you control. It gave you responsibility for chaos and the illusion that you can manage it. Somewhere across the city, a new recruit stands on a rooftop, a borrowed radio in his hand, a voice in his ear telling him what to watch. He thinks it's just a job. He thinks he understands the rule. You already know how that ends, but the system doesn't stop. It never does, and neither do you.